It's a Monday to remember. Not only take a moment, we'll say it's Dr. Martin Luther King Day, and we can tell wandering around the city, and we'll touch on that a bit later. But it's also Denver Broncos Monday, Orange Monday. The Broncos won yesterday. And Mark Kiszla of the Denver Post, the premier sports columnist and psychic of Colorado, is with us. I'm Woody Paige from the Denver Post and ESPN. This is the Sports Show. On the day after the Broncos pull off one of the greatest upsets in the history of the NFL.
Upset?
They were favored by 7, I think.
Okay.
Today, our big stuff. Broncos bounce back, stun the Steelers. Yes, the Steelers were stunned. Mike Tomlin still trying to figure out about whether or not Peyton Manning surrendered on that play. Brady versus Manning. Is this the final showdown? And the great and powerful Kiz. You've heard of the great and powerful Oz. Well, there is no man behind the curtain. He's right in front of the TV set here. The powerful Kiz. Mark Kiszla picked the exact score. Is he a genius? Or was he just lucky? Why did he win Powerball if he was going to do something like that? Of course, Kiz was totally wrong about the Seahawks.
Oh, thanks. Mention that, too.
Are we able, I'm going to get right into it, are we able to show this where we can hear it? Can't hear it?
Yeah. That's me on Friday saying 23-16 Broncos, and it would be a game in the fourth quarter.
No, I think what I'm reading is 47-10 Steelers. He picked the exact score, and I just told him before we went on the air, the last time I did that in a playoff game or postseason game was the Broncos 20, the Raiders 17 in 1977. I think that was about 38 years ago. I haven't been right since then in regard to exact scores. Congratulations, Mark. That was a great pick, but it wasn't. The staff thought I was going to be right, that I said it was going to be a big number. If the Broncos had picked off a pass there, I might have been right because I was picking 34-13 or something like that. But as it turned out, the Steelers go down and kick a field goal because they need 2 scores.
Right.
And you were absolutely right. So our congratulations go out to Mark Kiszla. There's a reason he's Colorado's premier sports columnist.
I'm lucky.
What happened in the game? We saw did the Broncos win that game? The Steelers lose that game? Was it luck? Not Andrew luck this year. Was it Broncos luck? How would you sum up what you saw yesterday?
I thought the Steelers, for most of the game, played with more fire. I think they played looser. I think the Broncos played very tight. I thought the Broncos looked a lot in this playoff game the way they did in the loss to Indianapolis a year ago. I think at the end of the game, in the fourth quarter, when they found their running game could work with C.J. Anderson, that made the difference, and that's why the Broncos won the game.
Speaking of that, Troy Rink will join us on phone from Dove Valley to give us the latest news. So are you out there today?
I was not out there today.
Okay, well, Troy Rink will bring us up to date. We heard him screaming on occasion, more C.J. Anderson.
Yes.
I'll put it that way. And that would mean less Ronnie Hillman. The Broncos secondary, in particular, gave up about 8 or 9 big plays in the game.
Right.
Only 1 touchdown, however. I think that was kind of lost during the course of the day. The Steelers only scored 1 touchdown. Does the defense need to reestablish its identity, or did the defense do what it had been doing all year long? It also came up with the biggest turnover. So if it gave up 1 touchdown, it actually set up 1 touchdown.
I'm really glad you brought this question up because I think that is the one question that hasn't been examined enough and hasn't gotten enough play after this game. In the very first Pittsburgh series, Chris Harris Jr. comes off the field, goes to the bench, and throws his helmet down. Chris Harris Jr. was hurt. Chris Harris Jr. has been hurt since the San Diego game, and I'm glad you brought up the idea of the zone defense because Bradley Roby played Chris Harris's position throughout the game. Chris Harris became the nickelback. Chris Harris told me in the locker room after the game that he not only could he not tackle anybody, he couldn't even play press coverage because his shoulder hurt badly enough. So I'll give Wade Phillips kudos for going to a zone because he didn't have the defense that he's played with all season long. I thought Chris Harris gave a very gutty performance to get through it and play three-quarters of the snaps. And I thought Bradley Roby looked very bad at times, but then he poked out the ball and created the key turnover that turned the game.
I am so glad you give me a response to all that. Let me address all the issues. Roby proved he's a safety. He's not a quarterback. You and I have talked about that over and over again. The play he makes in the game is not a quarterback play.
It's a safety physical
kind of
play.
It was a volleyball
spike.
Whack. Yeah, absolutely. Chris Harris shouldn't have been on the field. He was always shaking that arm. He was holding it limp like Roethlisberger was in the Cincinnati game. Why would he even be on the field? If he didn't pull himself out, Wade should have pulled him out. He didn't belong in the slot. He didn't belong anywhere. Nobody likes Chris Harris Jr. as a person or a player more than you and I do.
Right.
But he didn't belong on the field. You know who was one of the key players in the entire game? Kayvon Webster.
Yeah.
He was all on special teams, but get him in the lineup to be in the slot if you're going to do that. Kayvon Webster, though, in his rookie year until he got sideways after an exhibition game in Dallas, and we really haven't seen him much on the field since then. Kayvon Webster should have been in the game as the outside flanker, cornerback, protector. I know that Roby should have stuck to where he is, which is a nickel cornerback. The other issue I'd bring back is that maybe one of the key plays of the game was when Wade Phillips get bowled over. And I even wonder whether or not who there is to back up call play. Who would you guess? I'm trying to think of who would call the plays. If
I don't know exactly what they were going to do in that situation. I don't pretend to know what they were going to do. But when Wade went down, I wasn't sure he was going to get back up. And if there's concussion protocol for players, there should be concussion protocol for a 68-year-old coach.
And I would just add to that, I asked Gary Kubiak, I said, when you went over your injury list, you didn't mention Wade Phillips. And he said, what happened to him? He didn't know it happened behind him. Did you?
I didn't realize that either. That would have shook up the head coach. It would have shook up Kubiak a great deal. You just lost your defensive coordinator.
I don't think you were in there when I was talking to Kubiak, and he said, tell me what happened. And I said, he got knocked over. He was knocked on his butt, and there was questions about whether he was getting up. Kubiak was so focused on what was going on in front of him, he wasn't paying attention. I don't even know why Wade Phillips was he must have been bailing out because it was way back behind the line of scrimmage. It wasn't at the line of scrimmage. It wasn't at the out-of-bound marker.
He didn't bail out. He got the deer in the headlights look and said, here comes the train, and he got his hands up, and that's all he did.
Would you think somebody out there, a trainer, another player, somebody should have got in front of him and protected Wade Phillips?
He was throwing a block?
He was sacked on that play.
Who was the MVP of this game? That's what I want to know.
You know, I wrote the question. I'm going to be truthful with you. I didn't think about the answer, but I'm going to do it. Well, do you have one? And then
this is what I was looking in my Denver Post about, because I was trying to remember how many yards exactly C.J. Anderson had.
I think it's around 70.
Yeah, and it was 15 carries for 72 yards. And in the first half, I kept on saying, like our colleague Troy Rink, get him on the field. Give him a shot to run the ball. So he actually ran for more yards than I expected. C.J. Anderson was the most valuable player of this game because the Denver offense was not going anywhere until they established a running game, and he established it.
Why I wrote the question is the most valuable player in the game was also the least valuable player in the game.
Who's that?
Roby.
Okay, that's theirs.
Roby
Good answer.
Was out of position at least 5 times in the game. And we don't want to put it all on him, but this was not Shiloh. This was not any of those guys that came off the street. It wasn't Josh or whoever those other guys, Bush, that came in. This was Roby, who's made some big plays this year.
Oh, yeah, he has.
He was out of position 4 or 5 different times. They made 8 or 9 big plays, but the Broncos were able to limit the damage. Roby, though, as he's done since he's come here, came up with, I thought, the biggest play of the game. Steelers were going to go down and kick at least another field goal. They were at the Broncos 35. They had the wind behind them. They got a good field goal kicker. They're going to go out, and the Broncos, it's going to be more difficult to come back. Roby, on the play, it was not a fumble. It was a forced fumble, and DeMarcus Ware happened to be there. If it hadn't even been the Broncos to recover it, Pittsburgh would have been back on its heels, and I think that would have been the end of it, and the Broncos still would have had a chance. But I give Roby. He made the biggest play of the game.
Well, you made a point that needs to be stressed, is that when Roby plays corner alongside Talib and Harris, he looks just fine. And when he makes a play like he did to create the turnover, he looks like a hard-hitting safety. He can make the Pro Bowl multiple times as a safety. As a cornerback, if you put him out there on the island by himself regularly, he's going to be average.
This segment brought to you by John Elway Chevrolet on South Broadway. It's Colorado's #1 Chevrolet dealership.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
For our Players' Choice Pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one, I can work out like one, I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice Pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza.
Better football.
At thenewpapajohns.com.
I'm Woody Paige. This is Mark Kiszla, the only man in the world who actually picked the exact score of the Steelers-Broncos game. And we congratulate him, and Monday belongs to him. Maybe you looked. I looked at last night's game. You looked forward in your column to. You went forward to. Well, and I assume you looked forward to. Manning and Peyton are going to be playing for a 17th time. Brady's dominated, but Manning has won 2 out of 3 conference championships about them. Who has the edge? But before I tell you that, I have to mention. I don't know it because it was lost in all the stuff that happened. James Harrison gave me had one of the most insightful quotes. He said, this game was played above the neck. That Peyton Manning figured out what they were doing at the line of scrimmage. He used up most of the time watching what changes they made, and that Peyton Manning figured out what to do against the Steelers' defense, ultimately to win the game. And I love that line. The game was played above the neck.
Tomlin mentioned that as well. And there was one play in particular in the fourth quarter in which he's going down to the end of the play clock, and then he throws a simple pass to Emmanuel Sanders to his left. And that was obviously a check down and obvious something Peyton saw in the defense that I'll just get the ball out there to him, and that's a guaranteed
yes.
5, 6, 7 yards.
Sure. He was just what they had was Manuel took 2 steps forward and then 1 step back.
Right. Simple throw, but above the neck play.
Peyton Manning, as we've talked about, 2 out of 3 conference championships, but he's lost like 11 out of 16 times. However, if you want to go there, Tom Brady has lost 6 out of 8 games in Denver with Belichick during his career. He's lost to, forgive me for invoking the name, he's lost to people like, gosh, I was going to come up with some names.
No, the 2 quarterbacks I think he's beaten here
are
Danny Cannell and your guy,
That's
Tim
the
Tebow.
only one. That's the point I was thinking about. That Tim Tebow and Danny Cannell are the only quarterbacks he's
I
beaten.
thought Danny Cannell?
Every other quarterback.
I forgot Danny Cannell.
That was during the strike season or something,
Okay.
wasn't it? Or something. I can't imagine why Danny Cannell was doing it. But the two places where Brady and Belichick really have problems winning are Miami and Denver. Did you know that?
Yeah, yes, I do.
So who does have the edge? Brady has problems in Denver. He has problems in conference championships against Manning. Manning has had a bad history against Belichick and Brady overall. So who do you give the edge to on a Monday before the game?
Right here, right now, I give a big edge just in the quarterback matchup.
That's what we're talking about.
To Tom Brady. Tom Brady's still playing at peak efficiency, and as we've just said, Peyton Manning's playing all above the neck. Tom Brady's one of the 3 or 4 elite quarterbacks, if not the elite quarterback in the league still, and Peyton Manning is not. If it comes down to Brady versus Manning, the Patriots are winning this game.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to give the edge to Manning. I had this brilliant thought this morning. You're going to hear this today from me, and you're going to probably hear it in the column on Sunday. You're going to hear it all week. This is a game for the aged.
For the aged? Not for the ages. For the aged.
I think that what we saw yesterday was Manning, I'm going to say it, Manning's fluttering passes don't work in the wind. He was like a wiffle ball. He has been throwing. Do you know that the wind stopped in the fourth quarter?
Yes, it stopped. It was I could see by the flags on the goalposts at the south end that it died down a great deal.
Roethlisberger's hard-throwing passes could cut through the wind.
No doubt.
Manning, who's never had a great arm, I think it was not so much the passes as the pass receivers didn't quite know how to catch a wiffle ball kind of throw to him.
He was throwing change-ups. There's no doubt about that.
So it was like knuckleballing. I mean, I didn't think the passes really looked bad, but I think they were getting knuckleball, that they were accustomed to Brock Osweiler.
There was one pass, and I can't remember the Steelers' defensive back. He jumped the route, and he jumped it so early that the ball, he had a sure interception, and the ball wasn't there yet. And he whiffs it, and it goes by him. And he's like, what? I've never seen a quarterback throw a football that slowly.
I think there's, based on the weather, it's going to be in the 40s, mid-40s next. Have you looked at that?
No, I'm not.
45 next Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a bad day in Denver. There's not going to be snow. There's not going to be wind. Those Chinook winds, and as you know from your time in Colorado and as a skier, those Chinook winds come along the Front Range and they create problems and they create a lot of wind leading into some bad weather or something. That's kind of what we saw, because C.J. Anderson said after the game that they were expecting like 5-mile-per-hour winds, and they got up to 30, 35 miles an hour. So I don't think he's going to have that problem. I think he knows he can beat the Patriots. He's done it in 2 out of 3 big games. It is in Denver. Brady, for whatever reason, he and Belichick can't quite figure out Denver. Here's what's not also going to happen. The footballs are going to be right. I'm going to be the first one to bring it up.
Oh.
It's a year ago today. Do you know that? A year ago, right now. Number 2, headsets are not going to go out like they did Denver. They're not going to be able to do that eligible receiver thing that they did against Baltimore last year.
You're going with the Patriots shenanigans angle.
I think you do that. This segment brought to you by John Elway and Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. John Elway, our title sponsor, Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, the premier men's health clinic in Colorado. My friends at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, Alan and those guys over there, after one visit, they can change your sex life, reclaim the excitement, intimacy of sex through a unique program that focuses on the individual patient. You'll find a comfortable, relaxing atmosphere. You won't be tense. Your partner will be as happy as anybody could be based on your one appearance at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, 720-440-7900.
Is a lack of intimacy at home starting to affect your performance on the course? There are many factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol that may be contributing to your erectile dysfunction. Get back in the game with one visit to Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, offering same-day solutions for all erectile dysfunction and premature issues. And you get to try the medications containing FDA ingredients right in their office. Let the providers at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic help you get your confidence back. And be sure to ask about the $99 limited time special. Call today.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
You're looking at me funny. I just gave you, because we got a few stats on it. John just told us 2 oldest quarterbacks
in a playoff game since
Elway and Marino.
In 98?
Yeah. I gave you one, and you looked perplexed. The Broncos and the Patriots have the 2 quarterbacks who were the last 2 quarterbacks to win Super Bowls from the AFC.
Well, see, I can remember that Brady did last year, but then
he won 3 before that,
yeah.
And the previous guy before that was Elway against the Chicago Bears. Isn't that amazing? Think about it. What other AFC team has won a Super Bowl?
I think Roethlisberger's won once in that time period, hasn't he? No? I'm trying to think.
No, he won his rookie year. He didn't win the other one.
Okay. Baltimore. Flacco, I knew there was somebody there. You're up to shenanigans today. You and Belichick, always looking for that little edge.
We have a Twitter. We put out a question on Twitter. Who you got today? And it kind of fits with your other one, but the Patriots offense got everybody healthy now. The Broncos defense, Chris Harris Jr. is not healthy, but I think he'll figure out some way to play next week. But they lost Omar Bolden, so he's kind of a backup safety, but he's more important to special teams. Here's what the response is, and then I'll ask you. Really?
Well, what city are you sitting in, Woody?
But Twitter goes everywhere.
I know, but 87% of your respondents say Broncos defense, 13% say Patriots offense.
That's 32 votes. That's small sampling.
Yeah.
There's 23 hours left in that.
Some precincts from the greater New England area are not yet reporting.
Yeah, I mean, there must be some hanging Chads or something, or Chad Brown's involved in this or something. That's probably what do you
So
say?
do you have the Patriots offense with the edge right now or not? You can be vote number 33. That's a long pause there. Game for the aged.
I'm not pregnant, but that's kind of pause it is. Patriots offense.
Mm-hmm.
Today, because they got Gronkowski healthy. He wasn't healthy at the end of the game here.
Right.
Edelman's back.
Right.
Amendola's playing well. The offensive line seems to have been cemented. They did what I told you. You know, I was right about one thing. Brady threw about 50 times. They didn't even run the ball for like a whole half.
Here's what's interesting.
So that's what's missing. That's where you got the hanging Chad for me, is they got no running game.
Here's what's interesting for me, building on what you just said. I saw Seattle early in the year have a terrible offensive line, and Russell Wilson couldn't do anything. I thought they had fixed their offensive line problems. They played a very good Carolina Panthers team, and their offensive line got blown up. The Patriots have had big offensive line problems. In the playoffs against Kansas City, Justin Houston didn't play, and their offensive line was just fine. Is the Broncos front 7, front 4 good enough to disrupt that offensive line and hurry Brady? And if that's the case, then I can lean to the Broncos.
Well, let's ask Troy Rink. Let's get the expert in. It's even more so than Mark Kiszla, who picked the exact score of the game. Troy Rink, do you think it's the Broncos defense or the Patriots offense?
That is the key to the game? I would say it's definitely going to be, whoa. It looks fine on my end. I'm just saying. His always looks weird, so that isn't a good juxtaposition. I would say
I thought you were lying on a sofa.
Yeah. Another Monday after the game, relaxing. I would think, Woody, it's the Broncos offense has to show more. You can't win against the Patriots with one touchdown. There's some defensive issues here with Chris Harris hurt, and Kiz has talked about this a lot, and I agree, because who's going to guard Edelman if Harris can only play on third downs? But they can't win against the Patriots by scoring one touchdown.
Okay, the second, what is the latest out there? I mean, it's Monday. Chris Harris Jr., Omar Bolden, we've heard, is finished for the year. Chris Harris Jr. is a critical aspect of this game.
Yeah, Bolden's out with the knee sprain. I talked to him earlier today. He won't have surgery, but they'll miss him in the return game. Remember yesterday, he had the one big punt return. He's a catalyst. They don't really have any guy like that. Norwood, Sanders, KO just basically catch the ball. They're not really returners in that same way. But when you ask about Chris Harris, it's a deep bone bruise, Woody, in his left shoulder. It compromises him in two ways. He likes to get his hands on the receiver in press coverage. He can't really do that with his left arm. And it also affects his tackling. At one point yesterday, he came off the field and threw his helmet down. He was so mad he couldn't tackle Sammy Coates. Coates went over the middle, and he couldn't grab it because of his arm. He had told me afterwards, I was playing with one arm. Gary Kubiak used that same terminology, that he played with one arm, he gutted it out. He will play Sunday, but if he's not healthy, how do they match up? That would probably leave Bradley Roby playing significant snaps against Edelman.
I picked Roby as the most valuable player. He picked C.J. Anderson. I assume you would agree with him because you were sort of thinking that the Broncos, I'm going to put this politely, Troy, you were thinking they should be using C.J. Anderson more, and he ended up with 72 yards and had the touchdown and had a couple of big runs. One was called back. As much as Roby got beat during the game, and we both agree, and I'm sure you will too, he's a safety playing cornerback, but he made the biggest play of the game with that volleyball spike. In your mind, who was your most valuable player in the game?
That's a great question. I would still say it was Manning's pass to Fowler. If not for that pass, they lose. So I would say Benny Fowler, because this is the nature of this team, Woody. A guy we've never really heard of, you never talk about, makes a play. That's how this team's been all season, whether it's Shaq Barrett, whether it was Trevathan winning a game, whether it's Benny Fowler. Just the way the nature of, in context with the season, Fowler would be my guy because he's the one guy, if you went into that game, nobody's talking about. Clearly, Manning, Anderson played roles and Roby's punch out. But for me, symbolized the season that it was Benny Fowler making their biggest catch in their biggest game to date.
Von Miller made another Pro Bowl team today, the Pro Football Writers Association team. Am I too tough on Von Miller? I know he's an outstanding player, but I keep on waiting for him to have a game where he just dominates the whole game in J.J. Watt fashion. Is that an unrealistic expectation?
Well, when you watch him in practice, it's not. I mean, he's the most talented athlete I've ever seen. He does things that are just remarkable physically that they're breathtaking. But he's not as big as J.J. Watt, so he's not able to chuck guys. He's quicker, but his size isn't the same, so he can get chipped. He can get double teamed, and tackles with long arms can keep him away just long enough. He gets pressure on. That sack at the end where he did that spin move, I mean, that was remarkable. But like you said, kids, you'd like to see a couple of those a game, but I don't have issue with Von Miller. I think part of it is his size against those tackles, but he's so due for a 3-sack type game. When you go back and look at the film, he does create havoc. He creates quick decisions. So I don't have an issue with Miller, but no, I don't think it's unfair, Kiz, because he is that talented athletically.
Do you think that Manning gave himself up? Was Tomlin right? I'm sure today he's still talking about that. Was that a surrender play, or was that one of the most brilliant plays we've seen all season?
You mean the playing possum play?
The fainting goat
that
you called him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that is usually called the guy's giving himself up on that play. Even Manning reacted as that, and Sanders, they're screaming at Manning, get up, make a play. So I would think the Steelers caught a bad break there. That wasn't the final drive, but it certainly changed field position. So I would agree with the Steelers on that. That play, usually when the quarterback's down, given their nature of protecting that position and that person, that typically he would have been called down. But he wasn't touched. So there was that. If he had been touched, they had a real argument. He wasn't touched. The whistle hadn't blown. It's a subjective play. They felt he hadn't given himself up yet.
We had a discussion earlier. Quick quick. I know you got other things to do. Quick answer here. Who has the edge? Brady can't win in Denver. The only time he wins here is against people named Tebow and Cannell. Manning is 2-1 in conference games, but Brady and Belichick have owned Manning 11 out of 16 times or something. In your mind, who has the edge in what I'm going to call the game for the aged?
I like that, Woody. On paper, the Patriots have a slight edge because they're better offensively right now than the Broncos, and the Patriots' defense is similar statistically to the Broncos. But you raise a great fact. Brady has not played well in Denver. He hasn't played particularly well against the Broncos. It's the one team in the NFL he has a losing record against, both in the regular season and playoffs. So as much as odds makers want to say, oh, it's Patriots, it's going to be their game, every game Denver plays at home is close. I'd expect this to be the exact same way where it comes down to the fourth quarter. Can Manning and the offense make a play, absent of the defense having a pick six or scoring? Can the offense make one or two big plays? I don't know that. And they go quarters without it, guys. They're ugly. It's grimy. And then you look up when they need a drive, they have a drive.
Thanks a lot, Troy. We'll talk to you again this week. Great look there, finally. We like that with the sky in the background and the windows and everything.
Sky.
And you got
it's sunny, Woody. 55 degrees out here.
It's going to be 45 on Sunday, so we can't bring in that Peyton Manning below 40 thing again either. So that's.
But you'll be typing in the press box with a glove on. I know that. So we're good.
Troy Rink, greatest beat writer in the world, but didn't pick the game like Mark Kiszla did of the Denver Post, who had the score right. This segment and this interview brought to you by Elway Chevrolet, Colorado's #1 Chevrolet dealership.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
The reason why I was introducing every segment is I wanted to get in that you picked the score right. So I hope you realize that that was the purpose of all that. He picked the score right.
I picked the score right. He didn't. This is a sports show.
I had the right winner, though. You would agree with that, right?
Yes, you did. Brandon McManus, record-tying performance on Sunday. Does it help you forget about the ugly shank or the hook or whatever you want to call it against San Diego? And is he back on track?
Jason Elam, I trusted every time he kicked the ball. In the postseason, at the end of a game, whatever. McManus, there wasn't a kick at the end of the game. Yes, I think he can make kicks. He's got a great foot. He can make it from distance. I thought at one point, and I think I told you, I thought he could kick a 65-yarder when he had the wind behind him.
Yep.
I still don't trust him or Colquitt. I just don't.
The shank was against the Bengals. Did I get that wrong? It wasn't against San Diego? Remind me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think kickers can go through slumps just like golfers can go through slumps, and I think he's got the mojo back, so I'm not worried about him.
Okay, what's your next question? I haven't got to that.
Do you okay, say the game's on the line against New England or in the Super Bowl, and I'll make it up, it's a 48-yarder. Do you trust Brandon McManus to make that kick?
One of my favorite Beatles songs of all time is Norwegian Wood.
Yeah.
I love that song. John Lennon singing it. Crawled off to sleep in the bath. That leads me to, not Norwegian Wood, but Scott Norwood, who missed a 48-yarder for the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl when the Giants beat them. Do I trust McManus for that
Norwegian Wood?
Wasn't that his nickname, Norwegian Wood?
Okay, Mr. Berman.
I don't trust McManus. I don't trust him 48-yarder to win the Super Bowl. Don't trust him at all.
I don't. It's a really bad image for me. You thinking about scoring Scott Norwood in the bath. But I do trust Brandon McManus to hit the kick.
News break with Molly Hughes. We'll be back with more Norwegian Wood in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom. Starting February 1st, Amazon.com will start collecting sales tax for online purchases made in Colorado zip codes. The Colorado Department of Revenue confirms the change in policy to our partners at Denver 7, but the department refused to say what spurred the change. Right now, Colorado law requires customers to self-report their purchases and independently pay sales tax to the state for whatever they buy. But starting February 1st, Amazon.com will start collecting a 2.9% state sales tax in Colorado. What's not clear is whether Amazon will also collect city taxes from the different jurisdictions around the state. To this point, Colorado law has required Amazon and other online retailers to track purchases made by people in Colorado and report the amount of sales tax that should have been paid. In 2014, the Department of Revenue estimated that amount was $170 million. Colorado was losing by not collecting sales tax for online purchases.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
For our Players' Choice pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one. I can work out like one. I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza.
Better football.
At the new papajohns.com.
We got four on the floor going on right now, and I'll start. Did Peyton surrender himself up on the self-sack? Was that an accident, or was that the greatest deke in the history of pro football?
Wouldn't that be a great play if he actually had intended that? Wasn't there a play by a quarterback in the playoffs where he dropped it or on purpose and then picked it up?
Aaron Rodgers in the past has done the fake spike and then thrown a touchdown. I think he did that in Miami or against Miami once.
Yeah.
So there's been stuff like that, but
he didn't do that.
No, you were asking him about it in the post-game press conference, and you could tell by his reluctance to talk about it that he was embarrassed that it happened, that he had decided to take the sack, to fall down. The Pittsburgh defender didn't touch him, and he did have the wherewithal to know the whistle hasn't blown, I'm going to get up and I'm going to throw it.
And what my follow-up question was about, why did he throw it where he did? And he did, and I said seriously, and he did say, well, that was where Emmanuel was supposed to be. So he looked to where, I mean, if he had to look around the field, he might have been. But he has enough cerebral confidence in himself that he knew that's where, so he looked right to where Emmanuel was supposed to be. Nuggets win again in the thriller over the Pacers. Their goal on this homestand, Malone's mentioned it.
I heard him 6-2.
6-2. That the players told him that they could do better than that on this homestand.
They could go 7-1. They're still out there.
Yeah. Are we still somewhat overlooking them? And you've seen them lately. You saw them beat the Warriors.
Well, here's the deal: is that, and you've mentioned this, the Western Conference at the bottom isn't as tough as it has been in years past. I think 38 wins. 38-44 could get you into the playoffs this year. Are the Nuggets capable of that? If they go 7-1 on this homestand, at least it's in play.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Okay. If it happens, I'll take a positive viewpoint. You and I are not always positive. If it happens, it gives them more hope for the future. But if it happens, they don't get a draft. They don't. Well, if they beat out the Knicks, they could still trade that one, right? It doesn't have to both be I don't remember that. We just assumed they were both not going to be in the playoffs.
Right. If they can swap with the Knicks regardless. So if they make the playoffs and the Knicks don't, they can swap the pick.
Well, that would be then I would pull for the Nuggets to be in the playoffs, and I would pull hard for Carmelo to be out the last 6 weeks of the season.
Varlamov or Calvin Pickard, who would you pin your playoff hopes on if you're Patrick Waugh and the Colorado Avalanche?
ABC. Anybody but either one of them. I don't know.
Really?
Well,
okay.
Yeah. Varley, if Varley has pulled his head out of his glove.
Yeah. Good. Well done, sir.
Yes, I would say Varley. I'm not a big Pickard fan either.
I'm a huge Pickard fan. Pickard is the future of this franchise, but it's not going to be this year. The Avs are going to ride Varley this season as far as Varley can take them.
Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I mentioned that at the top of the show. What sort of impact do you think he had on sports, if any?
I think Martin Luther King's, I have a dream, and you can have that dream speech gave a generation or more the hope that I can do anything I want. And so in that regard, I think that a lot of African American young athletes have been inspired by Dr. King.
I believe that throughout the history of this country, there have been a number of different African Americans who've had a profound effect on society.
Right.
And if you have a profound, let's mention a couple. There was a guy who brought African Americans into baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that had a positive effect on the history of baseball?
Right.
There was a man named George Washington Carver who really did a lot of research with peanuts, and that doesn't sound like much, but he showed that African Americans, given the ability, the space, the opportunity, could advance certain aspects of growing peanuts in this country. And again, that is a major, it's one of the few major crops that we have that we really control the world in. Martin Luther King Jr., I heard his speech, and I was covering civil rights in the South, and so I think it's more profound to me that I think he gave, you said it, he gave generations, that anytime we advanced African Americans and Latinos in this country, it's only good for this country. The feeling I find politically is rather than try and advance as the Italian Americans did, the Irish Americans did, that people in this country still want to suppress African Americans or Mexican Americans or Japanese Americans. They're part of the society. You don't suppress them, you try and help the progress. So I think he did. He did a lot for helping this country. Four on the Floor, sponsored by Citywide Banks, a family-owned, Colorado-focused business bank with 12 locations across Denver and Boulder, over 25 services that businesses need, and a passionate supporter. Citywide Bank is a passionate supporter of more than 150 Colorado charities. That means Colorado-focused, family-owned. Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
At Citywide Banks,
we put you first by exceeding your service expectations every day.
Every day.
And I wrote back and I said, wouldn't you think that, there's
Peace.
Dan Boniface. No,
What's going on, Dan?
I was just surprised. I was saying it that there's a lot of negative blowback on what happened with Demarion Thomas and his mother, because people saying, oh yeah, well, she was a druggie and all that kind of stuff. Don't you like happy endings? I mean,
the nature of social media is it gives the opportunity to people that don't think their voice is being heard to complain. And often it's to you and me, and that's just the way the world works.
It took a little work, but we got one of our favorite segments, one of our favorite people. You are?
This is Dan Boniface with DenverPost.com, and this is what's trending. You're talking about a lot of negative feedback. Well, one of our stories here is getting a lot of negative feedback on social media right now, and one of my favorite topics, the Colorado Rapids. They traded their starting goalkeeper today. Clint Irwin has been starting for the last 3 seasons, and now he's off on his way to Toronto FC. This comes at a time when the Rapids have been linked with Tim Howard of the U.S. national team, but they've also said, they're perfectly happy starting the season with Zach McMath in goal. What do you think? Do you like the trade of Clint Irwin from the Rapids?
If they're trading Clint Irwin and they're not signing Tim Howard, they're crazy, silly, stupid fools. But other than that, I like it just fine. If Tim Howard's going to come to the Rapids and he's going to be the goalie for the next 2 or 3 years, it's a perfectly fine trade. So come straight, Rapids. Tell us what you're doing.
He and I have discussed it. That I thought, well, if you could get a year or two out of Tim Howard, he tends to think that he's got 3 good years left in him. I love Tim Howard. He's another one, and I use this line a lot, but it's true. Larry Fitzgerald, Chris Harris Jr. I like him as a person. I've gotten to know him. I like him as a world-class player. He brings not only an experience, he can be a guy. If they're bringing in some international flavor in other positions, he's a guy that can kind of pull that all together. He's proven he can do it on the world stage. I like that. I think that maybe we'll get more people involved in following the Rapids, because that's a name they can actually deal with, like Beckham. I mean, he's not Beckham, but he's a guy who's American. Mark said it. He may be the greatest American we've ever produced in soccer. I mean, there are questions about a couple other guys, but I love it. I love it. If that's the end result.
Yeah. Well, they could stand pat with what they got. We'll have to wait and see. Speaking of the international stage, Kenneth Farid today was named one of the 30 finalists for Team USA's roster. Gut feeling, does he make the U.S. Olympic team?
I'll take this and I'll keep it short. He proved that he could play with a lot of great players and be a great complementary player. Mm-hmm. I could understand why they put him on the team. You don't need 15 stars. You need guys, and he'll do a lot of the dirty work. And he was really, whether he got the title, he was like the most valuable player the last time they played in the World Championship.
All right, so I've looked down the list of 30 players. Complementary player. Do you take somebody like Andre Iguodala as a defender who does the dirty work, or do you take somebody like Kenneth Farid that rebounds and does the dirty work? I would guess it would be Iguodala over Farid, so he's not having to beat out 29 other guys. He has to beat out one specific guy, Andre Iguodala. I'm not sure he's going to.
I mean, it's almost like a designated hitter.
Right.
But I would argue this point with you. He's a set the pace kind of guy. I mean, he's
an energy guy off the bench. Which is what he should be night in and night out in the NBA, but he doesn't want to do that for the Nuggets.
Last question I got for you guys. Troy touched on it a little bit. Omar Bolden out. So my question is for you guys, who do you want to see back there returning kicks against the Patriots?
Somebody that's not on the team.
Might be a little late for that.
Emmanuel.
Yeah, I was going to give you the chance to go first because I didn't think you'd say Emmanuel Sanders. A lot of Broncos fans don't like the idea of Emmanuel Sanders because he's such a valuable wide receiver. They don't want to risk injury in Sanders returning punts. I think he's the most dangerous of the options, and if you're going to need a big play in special teams to beat the Patriots, he could do that for you.
And I would add one other thing, and I don't like Emmanuel back there, but I talked to one of the greatest of all time, Rick Upchurch, and he said, you don't get hurt returning punts. You don't ever get hurt returning punts because kickoffs, people are building up a head of steam. You only got 2 guys. You kind of sidestep them. It's not a common, and you've only got, at best, you got 2 games left. I think you can risk it in 2 games if they play 2.
Dan, nice shirt.
As always.
Thanks.
Lead leader, but I was going for a bright look today.
I like it. I like the tie.
But you have to give me your schedule when you're coming on so I can come with my best stuff. Dan Boniface, live guest appear courtesy of Papa John's. Order Papa John's Broncos 18 special today. 2 large 3-topping pizzas for $18 using the promo code Broncos18 online at the new papajohns.com. But let me add this. Every day after Broncos win, if you put in Broncos, you get 50% off. So remember that when you're checking out those specials on Papa John's. He was in the crowd yesterday. Papa John's was.
For our Players' Choice Pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one. I can work out like one. I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice Pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza.
Better football.
At the new papajohns.com.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
We have some great segments. Trending Now, Four on the Floor, Pick Six, Troy Rink on the phone. But nothing is better than Madison Faulkner with Madison's Mailbag.
Yes. All right, so our first tweet for today was from Kelly Bradley 14, and she wants to know, do you think Peterson is the right coach for the Eagles, and what player do you think he will select in the draft?
Well, that's what is.
I have no idea who will select in the draft. I'll admit that. But I will say this. Peterson sounds like a bad choice for the Eagles to me. And he's going, of the 6 guys that have so far taken the job, I'm betting on Peterson to get fired first, even before Hugh Jackson went to lowly Cleveland Browns.
If you were going to look for, let's say, 6 gallons of green beans, where would you go? Like in a can. I'd go to one. I'll answer my own question.
Okay.
Costco or Sam's Club.
Okay.
If I were going to look for a head coach with a team that's got this offensive personality, the place I wouldn't go is to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay. If Andy Reid's getting a bunch of grief about poor clock management at the end of that game, doesn't the offensive coordinator bear some of that responsibility?
Sure. Except Andy Reid really calls the plays.
Okay, then there's another reason why you don't hire Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Is the offensive coordinator doesn't do anything.
It's really a great point that so many head coaches are calling their own plays. It's difficult to find out what the offensive coordinator is really doing.
Next question.
Draft, who knows? I don't know. The Broncos are picking 29th, 30th, or 31st. The Patriots don't get a draft pick over Deflategate. Who are they going to pick? I hope they pick an offensive lineman.
Broncos?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Perfect. And so our last tweet that we selected for today was from Prince203, and he wants to know, will the Patriots regret not fighting harder for home field advantage, or do the Patriots not care about it?
Go ahead, because
Do you really believe the Patriots gave away home field advantage and gave away that game to Miami and just said, hey, we're beat up, let's not get Brady hurt, let's win if we can.
Got him hurt, by the way.
What? Win if we can, and don't worry about if we lose, and we'll go to Denver and we'll beat Denver.
No, I can't. I can't believe that for a moment. I don't think there's a conspiracy among the Patriots. I think they played close. I hate that term. Close to the vest. That you hold your cards close to your vest.
Mm-hmm.
For people who want to know the history of that, when you're playing cards, you don't want to hold your cards out like this. I think because of the injury problems, they thought, we can beat Miami. Miami's not any good. We can figure out a way to go down there and win. And they just weren't good enough to win with that kind of philosophy. They couldn't run the football. They had all these wide receivers out. So, no, I don't. Do they regret? Yes. I think there's enough doubt in their mind that they can come here based on history and win this game.
Okay, I will say this. I think it's a coin flip game here in Denver between the Patriots.
Well, not if that same referee flips a coin, it's not.
And New England. But I don't think there was any way the Broncos could have won a game in New England. So, yes, the Patriots should regret it.
Is that it?
That is all.
Do you have a coin in your pocket, either one of you?
I don't.
Anybody have a coin that I can borrow for a second?
Oh,
nice
there
shot.
we got flying money.
I know this is taking up a lot of time, but I'm going to show you something.
Then you have another one?
Let me do this. There's another.
Okay.
Boy, it's raining money on you, Madison. You get that at 20.
I do, yes.
Okay, so here's the referee and he flips a coin and doesn't flip over, so he flips it again. And Aaron Rodgers said, well, I call it based on whatever's on top. I called that under there. Yeah. I didn't get a second chance to do this. Let me tell you, NFL, first of all, stop with the commemorative coins. We don't care that Thomas Jefferson's on this side and Hillary Clinton's on this side, or whatever it might be, or whoever it is. Just get a coin. And so that players can't do that, the referee goes, okay, I'm going to flip the coin. And he puts his hand over the coin. And he goes, so that's how you do it? And you flip it. The process of flipping, I've done this since I was a kid. Didn't you flip coins as a kid? You're looking at me funny.
We had video games as a kid. We didn't have to flip coins.
Well, I didn't have much. I had marbles and what was the other thing I had? Ball and jack.
Madison, we've learned something valuable today. Hold your cards and your coins close to the vest.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Madison. This segment brought to you by Elway Chevrolet and Quarters.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Our pick six today, and we'll have this. We did a thing on Friday or Thursday last week of best playoff games, and you had some losers, and I think I had a loser of games of Broncos. But I want to know now, in retrospect, having seen that game, I'm going to ask you: is this one of the top 6 most exciting, best playoff victories by the Broncos? I'm going to go first.
Okay.
I've got 6.
We're not counting the Super Bowl here, right?
Not counting Super Bowl.
Okay.
Good. Number 6, Denver 28-29, Pittsburgh 23. That was an exciting game. You agree? Win in overtime.
Tebow.
That's a Tebow to Demaryius Thomas. Number 5, Denver 38, Pittsburgh 33. That was in 1988. And there you go.
I think now that's Denver 38.
Cleveland
33.
I'm sorry, because I was confused.
Yes, that's
that
the
was
fumble
the
game.
Fumble game.
Ernest Biner. That's
I had
2.
a tie for 5. Denver 23, Pittsburgh 18, 16. That was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Yeah,
that's
that
3.
went down. I would tie for 4th. And I'm not doing this correctly, but I would tie for 4th. Denver 14, there's a reason for this. Kansas City 10 in 1998.
That's part of the revenge tour.
Yeah,
right?
and
that's 4.
The other tie was Denver 24, Pittsburgh 21 in the AFC Championship
the
that
other
same
revenge
year.
tour. That's
so I
5.
kind of put them together. Number 3, Denver 20, Oakland 17. And I picked the exact score before that game. Okay, I got Denver 22, New England 17 in 1987, and I got Denver 23, Cleveland 20, the drive game, and it ended in overtime.
This segment's called Pick 6, and you picked 8 games. Yeah. What the heck is wrong with you? Is this Pick 6 for the agent? Since you picked 8, I'm only picking 4. So our average is at
it's not called Pick 4.
Denver 26, Houston 24, 1992.
Okay,
that was Elway's best drive ever.
Okay.
Denver 20, Oakland 17. You picked that score exactly right, or so I've been told. Number 2 is Denver 23, Cleveland 20 in overtime. The drive. And number 1 took Denver to its first Super Bowl victory, qualified them for the Super Bowl. Denver 21, Denver 24, Pittsburgh 21. Elway telling Sharp, just get open.
Yeah. The reason for that was that most people have short memories. This was not one of the greatest victories the Broncos have ever had in the playoffs.
No, I agree with you.
Nah, it's not. Hey, if you want to join us, and you can go anytime between 2 and 3 every day and see us live. You can watch us on demand on denverpost.com. We have a YouTube channel. You can see us there. We have an iTunes podcast. We have a Facebook page, the sports page. You can tweet us with whether you like the offense of the Raiders or the Patriots or the defense of the Broncos.
Or your prediction for the Eagles draft pick.
We hope you've had a great Monday after what happened on Sunday night. I heard bells ringing when I went out to the parking lot last night. Well, that finishes the show for us, but stay tuned. Coming up right now. Molly Hughes with a Denver Post update.
Hello, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom with key findings from a new report regarding the 2013 Christmastime attack on Arapahoe High School that led to the killing of student Claire Davis. That report was done as part of an agreement with the parents of Claire Davis, who promised not to file a lawsuit against the school as long as there was full discovery and disclosure of the events that led up to that deadly day. The new report, released today, reveals 3 major failures by school and district administrators. It found a failure to share information that was known about the gunman's state of mind and his violent tendencies, a failure to assess the level of threat posed by gunman Carl Pearson leading up to that attack, and third, a failure of systems integrity, basically having a coordinated system of information sharing in place. The 141-page report says not one teacher, administrator, or staff person had a complete record of Carl Pearson's history of concerning behaviors, even though Pearson's own mother raised concerns about her son's history of violent threats months before the deadly shootings. Particularly, she told them of the threat to kill his debate teacher, who was the intended target on December 13, 2013. The report says staff, students, and Pearson's parents had information about Pearson's violent tendencies that could have assisted law enforcement and mental health workers in getting Pearson the help he needed. A previous investigation by the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office found no evidence of criminal wrongdoing by the Littleton School District. The report is dedicated to Claire Davis and her parents, Michael and Desiree Davis, who wrote an open letter to the public at the beginning of the report. You can read it in its entirety by clicking on the link in the article.